This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. The fighting appeared to be tapering off in the Persian Gulf today. The momentum toward peace seemed to be picking up. The United Nations Secretary General said he may be able to announce a ceasefire date within 10 days. But Iran appeared to be concerned with keeping up at least the appearance of warlike tension. Correspondent Anthony Mason in London has our report.
The Iranians boldly showed the flag today in the crowded waters of the Gulf. After keeping a low profile for more than a week, an Iranian frigate sailed into the tanker lane to challenge a Polish ship.
Would you please tell me what's your nature of cargo? Have you any cargo on your board?
Yes, mostly steel, general cargo, a little general cargo.
Yes, thank you.
2 miles away, a U.S. frigate monitored the exchange, but the Iranian captain was sending friendlier signals. While both sides are keeping their guards up in the Gulf, the real work for peace begins at the United Nations this week. Iran's foreign minister arrived in New York today. Iraq's foreign minister is expected tomorrow.
I hope that my talks will start on Wednesday.
Diplomatic sources believe both sides are ready for a ceasefire and perhaps even peace. But Iraq, which has seen the war turn in its favor in recent months, is trying to make certain it goes to the table with the strongest possible hand. The Iraqis launched a massive offensive into Iranian territory over the weekend. Iraqi commanders insist their troops will withdraw to their own borders by tomorrow, but will take thousands of Iranian prisoners with them.
Because there's going to be a prisoner exchange organized by the United Nations at some stage in the near future, and they want to have a bargaining tool.
Tonight, a frail Ayatollah Khomeini made a rare appearance on Iranian television. The aging imam who has led the Iranians to war is now reluctantly advocating peace. This week, his ambassadors in New York will have to convince the Iraqis that he means it. Anthony Mason, CBS News, London.
The UN's role in helping to settle the Iran-Iraq war brings into sharp focus some history, such as the United States has contributed more money to the UN than any other country. Despite this, America bashing at the UN has been popular since the beginning. This led to UN bashing in this country and, during the Reagan years, withholding money. Wyatt Andrews reports some of this may be about to change.
For the United Nations, negotiating the Iran-Iraq ceasefire has come to mean a lot more than the possible end of a war. It could also mean an end to the UN's financial battle with the United States. At a time when the United States benefits from the UN more than ever, it also owes the UN more than ever, $532 million in dues. The pressure is now increasing for the United States to pay.
The United States Congress doesn't want our country to be a deadbeat. And our country is finding the UN can be a place where useful things happen.
After years of dismissing the UN as the agent of the third world, a hangout for Soviet spies, the United States reached the $500 million debt figure just when the UN was handing the world a string of successes. When the Soviets agreed to leave Afghanistan, it was a UN mediator who hammered out the treaty. When Cuba and South Africa last week agreed to leave Angola, the agreement was based on a UN resolution. And when the USS Vincennes shot down the Iran Air jetliner, Vice President Bush went to the Security Council to successfully defend the U.S. against a resolution of condemnation.
It's certainly short-sighted for the U.S. on the one hand to want to use the UN more and more to solve the problems that we can't solve on our own, and the other hand not being willing to put up the money.
Ironically, the Reagan administration, which now has the most to gain from the UN, made UN bashing popular.
The members of the U.S. mission to the United Nations will be down at dockside waving you a fond farewell as you sail into the sunset.
Today, former Ambassador Lichtenstein still agrees the U.S. should not pay dues in full until the UN fixes what the U.S. sees as a bloated bureaucracy.
Over the past 40 years, the United Nations has grown into an enormous international bureaucracy. In New York alone, there are nearly 15,000 employees.
The UN remains so politically unpopular that experts think it might not matter now that the UN is selling itself to critics as an organization that finally has something to do. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the State Department.
Talk of peace in the Gulf is sparking new hints in Washington that President Reagan may again be trying to strike a deal with the Ayatollah Khomeini. Improved U.S. relations with Iran and help for American hostages both figure in what Mr. Reagan and his aides are saying. White House correspondent Bill Plant reports.
With new hope for an end to the Iran-Iraq war, President Reagan today acknowledged what his aides have been signaling for some time, that the U.S. is open to new dialogue on the question of the American hostages.
Are you ready to talk to Iran about the hostages? Is it time?
If they're willing and ready to talk, it's time.
Yesterday in Beirut, the pro-Iranian leader of the group believed holding the hostages said he wants to see their captivity come to a happy ending. And in a message sent to Iran last week, the administration congratulated Tehran on its moves toward a ceasefire and indicated it is ready to discuss a wide range of issues.
We remain willing to talk with an authoritative and responsible representative of the government of Iran and to discuss the differences between our two countries, especially the issues involving the Iran-Iraq war, terrorism, and hostages.
9 Americans are still held in Lebanon, from Terry Anderson, now captive for more than 3 years, to William Higgins, kidnapped just over 5 months ago. Because of the bitter experience of the Arms for Hostages scandal, administration officials remain adamant that they will not negotiate any deal for the hostages with Iran or its friends. An expert on the region says there's every reason to be skeptical, but that Iran may be searching for a way out.
For the Reagan administration, this is the right time. It's the time to make this kind of move, because Iran may no longer want to be the pariah state that it has been in the world.
So far, say administration officials, there is no real movement. But with a ceasefire imminent and the situation in the Gulf so fluid, there is at least the hope that finally the time may be right for a breakthrough. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
A U.S. serviceman was shot and killed tonight outside Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. The Air Force sergeant was jogging when unidentified gunmen opened fire from a car. He's the first U.S. serviceman killed in the Philippines since last October, when communist rebels killed 3 men in a similar shooting near the same base. Israel today freed 148 Palestinian prisoners from its detention camp in the Negev desert. Israel called the release a goodwill gesture on this second day of an important Muslim holiday. On the occupied West Bank, some private Israeli citizens are hard at work on their own goodwill gesture, rebuilding what their army destroyed. Bob Simon explains.
The Israeli invasion of an Arab village, tools and equipment and blank disbelief from the locals.
Jimmy, what about all this stuff?
The shock is understandable. These Israelis are coming in peace. It is a work brigade.
We'll come again and again until we'll help the people of Beta to rebuild what the army destroyed.
That's right. This is Beta and this is July. In April it was very different. An ill-planned picnic by Israeli settlers went wrong. A fight broke out between villagers and the settlers' armed guard. 2 Palestinians were killed, so was a 15-year-old Israeli girl. Israeli politicians called for Beta to be erased from the earth, and the army seemed to be doing just that. 14 houses were destroyed, olive groves were uprooted. It turned out that the girl had been shot accidentally by the Israeli guard, but the army continued its grim work. 6 villagers were deported to Lebanon. 30, including a pregnant woman, are still behind bars. Many Israelis were appalled by what had happened. They formed the Beta Committee and started turning up every week to put Beta back together again. The word Beta means home.
The first of our works is to come into these houses and to do renovation work to make them habitable for the families.
Getting electricity going, cementing new and broken walls. But then the Israeli workers started getting trouble from the Israeli soldiers.
And we planted the trees, and then the army came and took it out and destroyed what we did. And then they told us to get away, otherwise they'll put all of us in prison.
Right now, no one comes to Beta anymore. And even the soldiers don't bother patrolling the village very much these days. There's no reason to. Beta may not have been looking for a fight that day in April, but has been defeated. But the Israeli liberals, the Beta Committee, plans to fight on.
We are going to sue the state now for the damages inflicted.
They're also helping to defend the prisoners. They also hope to return next month with more cement, more rebuilding, finish the job, then move on. The hope is that Beta will be remembered as the beginning of a movement. Bob Simon, CBS News, Beta.
And still to come on the CBS Evening News, Bob Schieffer on daycare and shifting presidential politics. And David Browning with some sensational pictures of the windsurfers' Mecca this summertime.
your mouth. That's the crunchy texture of a Triscuit. Now that's the delicious whole wheat taste of a Triscuit. Ooh. And that's the unique look of a Triscuit. They're made to take on any topping or no topping at all. Just listen to your mouth. Ah. That's the sound of a happy mouth. Triscuit. Listen to your mouth.
Now for indigestion, gas. Introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
A legend has been created. A better battery for the future. Better with more reserve power. Better with a warranty that lasts over 6 years. Better with a special $10 rebate available right now. The legend from Napa. A better battery.
I've heard some people say that all pain relievers are the same. Well, that's just not true. In the hospital after a boating accident, my doctor set me straight. He gave me Tylenol. It stopped the pain without irritating my stomach like aspirin or even ibuprofen can. With so many pain relievers today, some people might have trouble deciding. But I know what to trust. Tylenol. Because they're not all the same.
Trust Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
Governor Michael Dukakis is back home in Boston today after opening officially his campaign run against George Bush, talking up, among other things, concern for American families. Vice President Bush is back in Washington after trying to do something about what his aides privately call his desperate problem with women. Polls indicating Dukakis more popular among women than Bush is. Bush tried to score on one of the hottest family issues of Campaign 88, the lack of safe, affordable daycare for children. He proposed a daycare tax break for some working parents. CBS News correspondent Bob Schieffer reports tonight on the shifting politics of daycare.
Hey, Elizabeth, here comes.
Who keeps the kids and who pays for it? With more and more mothers now taking jobs to make ends meet, those questions have become major political issues for both parties. Democrat Michael Dukakis underscored that in Atlanta.
Time to see that young families in this country are never again forced to choose between the jobs they need and the children they love.
But it's Republican George Bush who's become the first candidate to lay out a detailed child care policy.
I want to build a policy around parental choice. Particularly, we've got to find a way to put a greater range of choices in the hands of low-income parents.
What Bush proposes is a $1,000 tax credit for each child under age 4 in families with incomes under $10,000. A program that would expand over 4 years to include families with incomes up to $20,000. Like many of its conservative supporters, the Reagan administration has never favored funding daycare centers. But Bush says his plan gives parents flexibility.
Some parents want caregivers to be relatives or neighbors, or at a school, or yes, at a church.
In contrast, Dukakis favors legislation to provide federal subsidies for child care centers funneled through state agencies. And supporters say Dukakis is no latecomer to children's issues.
Mike Dukakis didn't need a pollster to tell him that he should pay attention to working women, to working families, and to issues of concern to children.
There is no question, though, that Bush has scored some early points with child care advocates. Some worry, however, that his proposal does not go far enough.
There are children ages 4, 5, and 6, and all the way through school age, whose families need assistance in paying for their child care.
Whatever the case, with both candidates now in favor of it, providing child care for working mothers will apparently be one of the main goals of the next administration, no matter who's elected. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Washington.
An estimated 3,200 people drowned in this country in the most recent year for which there are figures. But the fact that one little girl is alive holds out hope for a small number of potential drowning victims. Medical correspondent Susan Spencer reports.
June 1986, rescuers work frantically to find 2.5-year-old Michelle Funk, who has fallen into an icy mountain stream. The body can protect itself in freezing waters by simply shutting down, but there was little hope of reviving Michelle. She was underwater for over an hour. When she was found, her body temperature was 66 degrees. There was no pulse at all. But Michelle made it. 2 years after that icy plunge, she is thriving, the first person ever to recover after being underwater for so long. And she survived because doctors decided to warm not her body, but her blood.
The fact that her heart had stopped pumping made Michelle very difficult to rewarm by conventional measures.
Doctors heated Michelle's blood by pumping it through the same machine used in cardiac surgery to raise her body temperature and get her heart going fast. There are only a handful of these hypothermia cases each year. Usually it's kids falling through the ice in winter. The traditional treatment is immersion in warm water. Recovery in all these cases is iffy. But Michelle's experience at least gives medicine a new tool when time is the difference between life and death.
It takes 15 or 20 minutes to get them from a very, very cold temperature to normal instead of hours and hours.
Michelle remembers nothing of that awful day. Her doctors will never forget it. For them, she's become proof of what amazing things the human body can do. Living proof. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
And can you believe it? Louise Brown of Britain turned 10 years old today. July 25th, 1978, she became the world's first so-called test tube baby. There are an estimated 5,000 more now worldwide. She took all the latest attention in stride, saying, "I'm a test tube big girl now."
I'm not going to take it anymore. Sure, Metamucil works, but it's gritty.
I'm not going to take it anymore.
No more. Take new low-calorie Citracel Regular. Citracel isn't gritty, and it really works.
Ready?
In a minute, honey.
It's nice to be noticed for what you wear and how you look. And if you wear dentures, it's nice to know Efferdent cleans away stains and freshens up dentures so well. With Efferdent, all they'll notice is you.
In a new survey, doctors chose Bayer, even more than last time. Now 3-to-1 over extra strength Tylenol, 6-to-1 over Advil. Those are the new results when 1,000 doctors were asked if stranded on a desert island, which would they want? Tylenol, extra strength Tylenol, Advil, or Bayer? More doctors chose Bayer, shouldn't you? Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders. Now available in coated caplets.
If you heard the report on 59 cold cereals by a leading consumer magazine, you'd fall through the floor.
Mine's high in calcium.
And salt.
Salt?
High in fiber.
And sugar.
Sugar? Lots of protein.
And added fat.
Fat?
Nabisco shredded wheat was rated tops in nutrition. For no added sugar or salt, low fat, plenty of fiber and protein. Nabisco shredded wheat. Nobody else.
Nabisco.
Outgoing U.S. Attorney General Ed Meese today attacked two of his own former top aides, former Deputy Attorney General Arnold Burns and former Criminal Division Chief William Weld. He did so as the two prepared to give their first public account to Congress tomorrow about why they quit the Justice Department. Published reports have said they were concerned about Meese's ethics and conduct in office and about sinking Justice Department morale. Today, Meese claimed it was their incompetence that triggered a special prosecutor's investigation, the one that recently concluded that Meese probably broke some laws but should not be prosecuted. A malpractice suit before the California Supreme Court could have major impact on American religious life. At issue is whether the clergy, like doctors, lawyers, and other professionals, can be held accountable for damages. Jerry Bowen has the story.
The simple but thorny question is this: can practitioners of religion be sued for malpractice? Can pastors of the 10,000-member Grace Community Church, largest independent church in Los Angeles, be held liable, accountable for the suicide of a young man who came to them for help?
They were treating him for his mental sickness, and it had a disastrous effect.
I think the best way to understand it is that he simply, voluntarily, on his own part, took his life.
Ken Nally was 24 years old when he killed himself with a shotgun in April of 1979. He had tried and failed with a drug overdose only weeks earlier. By all accounts, Nally was a depressed young man who'd abandoned the Catholic faith of his childhood to become born again at the fundamentalist Grace Community Church, where the basic belief is that sin is the cause of all man's troubles.
Our heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked.
In a $1 million wrongful death lawsuit, Nallie's parents blamed the Reverend John MacArthur Jr. and his pastor counselors for failing to steer their son to a psychiatrist, for actually steering him to suicide by repeatedly saying that sin was his problem, charges the church denies.
There was no way in which this church ever led him to believe that suicide was a viable option.
If you're pushing a man down that's suicidal, I got a funny idea. Many times you get unable to grab his hand and pull him back. That's what happened to my boy.
The facts will be decided by a jury if the twice-rejected case ever reaches court again. And that's the issue being considered by the California Supreme Court. Can there be such a thing as clergy malpractice? Or is the clergy immune to such lawsuits, protected by the shield of the First Amendment, freedom of religion?
Religious counseling lies right at the core of what religion itself is all about.
We're talking about basic negligence. Even though there are First Amendment freedoms, there is no, the freedom stops where it's going to cause harm or...
This would make it dangerous for you right in this country to continue the kind of ministry you're in, because it would...
Nearly 1,600 groups, from religious broadcasters to the 6 million member Mormon Church, have joined this legal fight.
I think it would have a profound effect upon religion in America as it is being practiced today.
It's likely the case will go to the U.S. Supreme Court, whatever the California outcome. A question of accountability and religious freedom. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The longtime strongman of Burma, Ne Win, officially gave up power today, but a special Congress of the ruling party reportedly rejected his call for a referendum on whether to end one-party rule. Ne Win took Burma into economic ruin and almost total isolation during his 26 years of dictatorship.
After flying so many aircraft, I'm not easily impressed with car performance. Then I drove the Cutlass Supreme pace car at the Indy 500. I was impressed. In USAC test, Cutlass Supreme out-cornered the Acura Legend and brake better than the Ford Thunderbird LX. And Cutlass Supreme costs a whole lot less. So I got 3 of them. Hey, I got 2 kids, boys.
And now Oldsmobile will buy the air conditioning for you when you buy a 1988 Cutlass Supreme by September 28th.
Excuse me.
No problem. We know about kaopectate too.
Kaopectate actually absorbs the germs that can cause diarrhea.
Kaopectate, thanks. The diarrhea specialist.
I used to take aspirin for minor arthritis pain, but it sometimes upset my stomach, so I switched from aspirin to Advil. See, Advil contains the same medicine that's in the prescription brand Motrin. You know, just 1 Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. Advil works for hours, and it doesn't upset my stomach the way aspirin sometimes can. For me, Advil is simply the better choice. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
Suddenly Salad proposes 3 exciting new leisure activities. Pasta Primavera with broccoli, ranch and bacon, and Caesar with croutons.
Suddenly Salad. Suddenly Salad.
Live high.
In New York today, a judge ordered the America's Cup race to begin in September as planned. This ruling clears the way for the San Diego Yacht Club to sail its controversial 2-hull catamaran in defending the title it reclaimed for the USA last year. Challengers from New Zealand had argued the Americans should be held in contempt for entering a craft not, quote, like or similar to their yacht. Oceans removed from the big money competition of the America's Cup is the lonely sport of windsurfing. No controversy there, you say? True, unless you talk with some folks in Oregon, as David Browning reports in Summertime.
It's summertime in the shadow of Mount Hood here on the Oregon-Washington border. Summertime and the living is breezy. Windsurfers, hundreds of them, riding the winds that whistle through the Columbia River Gorge, painting the river red and green and orange and yellow, and hitting speeds up to 40 miles an hour.
It's the freedom that you have on that sailboard, exhilarating sensation of speed.
It's an addiction. It's a serious addiction.
What it's really about is being an adrenaline junkie.
They come from all over the United States and beyond, attracted by the combination of wind and water. summer sailors, and a few permanent dropouts, too.
Got out of my serious career and said, I'm having fun and I'm changing my lifestyle, and so now I'm just resorting it.
And in the town of Hood River, where the big excitement used to be watching the logging trucks roll by, there's now a steady stream of surfers rolling by, boardheads, as they call themselves.
You want bottoms to match? Shorts to match. Yeah.
Catering to them has become a $16 million a year business hereabouts, selling boardheads, the boards, and the wetsuits.
It's a 9.3, it's got negative tail rocker in it.
The lingo sounds like fighter pilot stuff. Negative tail rockers, high wind proficiency, launch sites, meaning the best places to get in the water. Watching all this, some of the locals wish the boardheads would sail on back where they came from.
They have no respect, and they just, they walk by like they don't know you and everything. Just like they're slowly taking over.
They gotta be empty up here in order to get out there on that water like that.
Windsurfers are hurt by such talk. Mark Nikkonen is a former television correspondent turned boardhead who's dismayed at how the locals behave.
They'll flip the bird at everybody and scream obscenities. There is that resentment.
But others preach coexistence. The Riverside Community Church advises everyone to be a little more charitable.
Okay.
And Bart Vervlette, who broadcasts the wind reports for boardheads every day, says, live and let live.
The wind's here, the wind's free, and anybody can drive here.
So for now, the Columbia is jammed. But the locals know that by fall, the weather turns cold and wet. Most of the surfers will be gone with the wind. And the boards people talk about will once again be boards. Lumber. David Browning, CBS News.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
And I don't want anyone driving my XT while I'm away. Do you understand?
The new Subaru XT6 has a powerful six-cylinder engine, computerized full-time four-wheel drive, and a design which makes it hard to resist.
Somebody drove my car. Who was it?
La 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 bam ba da da ba.
Get up to $1,500 cash back or 4.9 financing on a Subaru.
Hemorrhoids. They hurt, burn, and swell. Over the years, more doctors have recommended Anusol than Preparation H to relieve the hurting. Anusol is the word to remember for relief.
Into the land of heartburn comes the first liquid antacid without that liquid antacid taste. A really good tasting liquid that puts out heartburn's fire. New Tums Liquid. It works. It really tastes good.
You asleep?
No.
Thinking about the house?
Yes.
Sure we can afford it?
No.
Uptight?
Yes.
Buying a home can make you a little uneasy when you don't know what to expect. But if you get the new Best Buyer Guidebook from Coldwell Banker, we'll take you through every step, from finding a home to financing it. So don't get left in the dark.
Is it going to be okay?
Call Coldwell Banker and expect the best. A member of the Sears Financial Network.
I'm Robert Krulwich.
And I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow, the latest efforts to end the Iran-Iraq war.
Also, Wheel of Fortune invades England and Pee Wee Herman on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.
Coming up on Eyewitness News, are we putting dangerous waste in the Bordeaux landfill? That's what some residents are charging tonight.
The Wildcat strike against Dixie Auto Transport may be over, and Nissan is moving its cars again without trouble. And another cosmopolitan spa goes under.
We'll have these stories and a lot more coming up next on Eyewitness News.
Get ready for the hot summer sellout, where Ford's hottest wheels come with this summer's hottest deals. Like Ford Taurus, save $1,100 with a special option package